What is up, guys? I'm your friendly neighborhood web war fanatic, and this will be my official Silk Hero review for Marvel Champions. So before we get into all the charts and all that stuff, let's go over really quickly about how Silk works as a hero. So as you guys can see on her alter ego and her hero card here, she has a constant effect. If there are more than 4 tuck cards here, discard all but 4 of those cards, and then same for her hero form. So basically the way that Silk works is that she can tuck cards under her identity. The most reliable way to do that is going to be through the Silk Sense here, which is her hero ability. It's a response. So after you defeat a minion or a side scheme, or after you resolve a treachery card, you can tuck that card underneath Silk from the encounter card discard pile. So basically every single time that she defeats a minion, you can tuck it underneath her. If she defeats a side scheme, same thing. But note that she has to be the one defeating that minion or side scheme, right? It says after you defeat it, not your allies, right? And also not for supports, right? So Silk has to be the main person you're defeating it. That can also be through events, right? So if she plays like a For Justice, that's her playing the event, her thwarting off the side scheme. And if that's the last, if that removes the last one from the side scheme, then she will be the one to defeat it, and she can tuck the side scheme underneath her. All the cards in her kit revolve around having tuck cards, beneath her, and that's kind of how Silk works, basically, right? So, okay, let's go ahead and jump into actually, let's explain a little bit quickly about the 4 thing here. So basically, you can have a max of 4 cards tucked underneath her. If you get one more, then you must immediately discard one of them. So you can only you basically just have 4 at a time, right? You can't have any more than that. Yeah, okay, so let's jump into the charts here. So these are the 5 major categories that I evaluate heroes in Marvel Champions by, and each major category has 3 subcategories. So for thwarting here, the 3 subcategories are the stat line, the control, and the cards. So let's jump into each one of these. So the stat line is going to be your base thwarting stat. I think that the thwarting stat is the most important base stat in Marvel Champions because you want to have that initial good thwarting stat without drawing into any thwart events or any other cards above your thwarting stat to thwart off the initial threat on the main scheme or any side scheme that start in play in scenarios, right? And what I'm looking for is at least a thwart stat of 2 for your hero. That would be really good. Silk unfortunately only has a thwart stat of 1, which is not good. That's under the curve. So unfortunately, she will not get a point here for the thwarting stat. But I do want to mention that she does have a really cool upgrade here, her strongest upgrade. It's called the Organic Webbing. It's a 2-cost upgrade, and it has a permanent effect, or a constant effect, I mean. Silk gets +1 thwart. So if she gets its Organic Webbing in play, the hero action here is you can exhaust this card and this card tuck card to ready her, which is even more powerful. But the constant effects are already really good to have that +1 thwarting. But since she does not start the game off with this card, she actually has to build into it, right? And there's also no guarantee that you can draw this card on your turn 1. It's not the most reliable thing, and we want the initial thorn setup 2 to start off scenarios to be able to do something right away, right? So unfortunately, she does not get a check mark for that, but she can definitely build herself up and work her way up there. Next, let's take a look at the control for the thwarting category. So what do I mean by control? That's any way to either mitigate threat or to flip down safely and prevent threat from going on the main scheme. So if the hero has like a way to confuse a villain, something like that would also contribute to this. If the hero has a way like Iceman, he can frozen solid, right? So that blocks out an activation, including a scheme activation. So if a hero can do that, even though it's not a confuse, they can flip down safely and prevent an activation, prevent threat from going on the main scheme. That's very powerful. For Silk here, she does have one card that's almost in there, but I didn't count this one, right? So the only card that we can kind of contribute to that category is going to be one of my favorite cards in her kit. It's actually called her Eidetic Memory, and it's a really powerful card. It's a 1-cost upgrade, and there's an interrupt here. Note that it's not a hero interrupt or an alter ego interrupt, so you can use it in hero form and in alter ego form. I think that's why this card is so flexible and so powerful. So the interrupt here is whenever you review a card from the same encounter set as a card tucked underneath Silk, exhaust the Eidetic Memory. We can swap the cards and review the card that had been tucked under Silk instead. Okay, so that's really crazy, right? So let's say, for example, I don't know, let's say you're facing Oshan, for example, right? So let's say Oshan gets the encounter card, Rage of Oshan. So, and you're an alter ego, right? So when reviewing alter ego, Ochan will scheme, discard top card of your deck for each threat placed this way. And let's say tucked underneath Silk, you have the Android efficiency right here. When review, each player puts a top card of their deck into play face down, engage with them as a drone minion. Well, they're both from that Ochan encounter set, as you guys can see in the bottom right here, right? So if you get and you review the Rage of Ochan with the Eidetic Memory, you can swap that with Android efficiency and review Android efficiency instead. So now you have the Rage of Ochan tucked underneath Silk, and you have Android Efficiency as your encounter card, which just gets you 1 drone minion instead of having Ochan Scheme, which could, pop, whatever main scheme, or could cause a player to lose the game. So this could be really powerful, but I feel like that the stars kind of have to align a little bit too much than what I would like. and especially early game, it can be a little bit difficult for you to get the same card from the same encounter set as the scheme activation. And if, like, for example, the villain gets like an advance after scheme activation, well, then you won't be able to swap because advance is from the standard encounter set, not from the Ultron encounter set, right? So this gets even more worse if you're facing, like standard 2 or like, expert 2, expert 1, right? Because different stuff can make it so that you won't be able to cancel it because there's too many different module sets and you don't have that specific one from the same one tucked underneath. So yeah, I think that it just takes a little bit too much for Stars Align for me to give her a consistent way to mitigate threats. But definitely, if you're able to get one from every single set, she has that way. But I think that it requires her to be a little bit later in the game, like at least through one deck pass for her to get all that set up. But yeah, it can be, but I'm gonna go ahead and not give her the point because I want to be as objective as possible, and I don't think that I could contribute that as a consistent, type of threat mitigation type of card. It's definitely, you can definitely put asterisks there, but it's just a little bit too much for me to give a check mark for her for that. And the final category for the thwarting category are going to be cards in her kit. Does she have good cards in her kit that elevate her thwarting? And Silk definitely does, right? So mainly this will usually be by authority events. Silk's thwart event is okay. Her thwart event is the wall crawl right here. So it's a 1-cost event. Hero action thwart, remove 2 threat from scheme. Then you can choose a scheme. You may discard a card tucked under Silk from the same encounter set as a chosen scheme to remove 3 threat from that chosen scheme, right? So at minimum, it's just a 1 for 2, which is not great, but it's not terrible, right? Just paying 1 cost to remove 2 threat isn't terrible. But then you can also discard a card tucked under Silk. So usually you want to discard like a card from the same encounter set as the villain that you're facing, right? That encounter set itself, right? So you discard like an armor guard, you can now remove 3 threat from the main scheme of Claw or any of Claw's side scheme, right? It just has to correlate with that card that's tucked underneath Silk that you're discarding, right? So this could potentially be a 1 cost for 5 threat removal, right? Or you can do 2 on one scheme and 3 on a different scheme, but you do lose a card tucked underneath Silk, which for a lot of Silk's cards are like kind of a cost for doing her stuff, right? So it could be a really good card. It could just not be that good if you're just starting out and you don't have a lot of tuck cards underneath Silk, especially not one from the same encounter set as a villain that you're facing, right? So definitely a card that can be a little bit situational, but its floor is not that bad and its ceiling is really high, right? So not a bad card at all. But let's take a look at the main thwarting card that Silk has that we saw earlier, which is her organic webbing. So really powerful. Just getting +1 thwart to her base stats is really good because now she'll have 2 thwart. She can thwart for 2. Then with the organic webbing, which we probably want to do is almost every single turn, we can exhaust it, discard a tucked card under Silk, and we can ready up Silk. So she can have an on-demand ready thwart again for anything, right? And this tuck card, unlike the wall crawl, can be any tuck card, right? It doesn't have to be from the same encounter set as like anything, right? Use this card, you can ready it back up and then thwart again for another 2 if you want to, right? So Silk can pretty much thwart for 4 every single turn when she has the organic weapon in play from any scheme, right? Silk also has the outwit right here, which is a 2-cost upgrade. As a hero interrupt, whenever Silk makes a basic thwart, we can exhaust this card. And then for the thwart, she gets +1 thwart for each card tucked under her from the same encounter set as the thwart scheme. So this card is very similar to the wall crawl right here, right? The kicker for the wall crawl, you have to have a card tucked from the same scheme that you're thwarting to get any boost from it. So early game, this card is pretty terrible. It's really rough early game because you don't have any cards tucked underneath Silk. And even if you do have one, it's hard to control that to be the exact one from the same encounter that you want to thwart the scheme off of, right? If it's a side scheme or even the main scheme. So if you're paying 2 costs for this early game, sometimes you're just getting no extra thwarting, which could be pretty rough. This, in my opinion, is a little bit more expensive than what I would want to pay for a card like Outwit. I don't really count this that much for really anything. I don't think that it's the best card in Silk's kit. Definitely one of her weaker cards in my opinion. But late game, whenever you can set this up, it can definitely be very good. But late game, I mean, you probably got threat managed anyways. But it definitely helps. You're in a win more situation, this card helps you win more. If you're already losing, this card is not going to help you out that much because yeah, basically if you have a lot of cards tucked under Silk, it can be really good. If you don't have a lot of cards, the floor is very, very low. And yeah, it just basically doesn't do anything if you don't have any cards tucked underneath Silk and you pay 2 costs for its upgrade. So that could feel bad. I mean, Silk definitely has good thwarting cards in her kit. So she gets a check mark for that. And then the overall, for her thwarting ability, is going to be a 1 out of 3. I definitely think that she is one of the weaker thwarting heroes, especially when the game begins. And that's usually when the thwarting is the most important. Definitely, though, after Silk can get built out, her thwarting can become insane. It can become amazing because her thwart set becomes 2. She has it on demand ready. She can play the wall crawl after she gets a lot of tuck cards under her, right? So her thwarting can definitely ramp up really hard and be really powerful. It's just whenever she initially starts, the throwing is not the best and she can struggle a little bit, which is why I'm gonna give her a score of 1 out of 3 for her throwing ability. But definitely build out. She is one of the best. Actually, let's also take a look at one of her other cards here, which is a J. Jonah Jameson. So this is similar to a B cop. Here's a 3-cost support, and then as an action here, we can exhaust this card to remove 2 threat from a side scheme. So it's a little bit expensive for what I wanted to do because I want the flexibility to also remove that from the main scheme, but 2 threat from a side scheme every single turn for 3 costs is, really good, as long as there's a side scheme in play, right? If you can proc this every single turn, it's really good. For turns that you're not able to proc it, it might equal out to like a 1 threat per scheme with a little bit less flexibility because you can't ever do the main scheme, right? So one thing to know with the action here is that you can use an alter ego in hero form. In my opinion, it's just a little bit expensive for what it does. The alter ego action is okay. You can exhaust this to search your deck and discard off or get the scoop. So this player side scheme right here and put it into play. This player side scheme, I think it's all right. Yeah, there's also action for you to exhaust or remove threat from here, but it's 4 threat. When you defeat, basically all you get is a tuck card underneath you, and you have to, spend 4 threat removal for it. And usually late game, whenever you build out enough and you have the threat removal to easily throw this out, it doesn't really matter to add any more tuck cards because you're already pretty good on your tuck cards. And in the early game, when you're struggling to remove threat, 4 can be a pretty steep hill for Silk to climb to get all that 4 threat off or to prioritize doing that early game to get those tuck cards, right? So this in my opinion is not the best card for Silk, and same for JJJ, unfortunately. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump over to her attacking ability right here. So for attacking, she gets a full score 3 out of 3. And these are the 3 major categories I have for attacking for heroes and Marvel Champions. So the first major category is the burst damage. Burst damage is important in Marvel Champions because if a villain has like Retaliate 1, you don't want to just take a bunch of Retaliate damage to the face. And a lot of villains will punish you if you don't defeat them on the flip, right? So Venom Goblin is always my favorite example. He's my favorite villain. When you flip him to stage 3, he deals a player 3 phase down encounter cards. So if you don't kill him all in one turn, you have to review those cards and get dealt another one. So there's 4 encounter cards, which will usually kill a player because Venom Goblin has pretty nasty encounter cards, right? So you want to have burst damage in a hero's kit. And so, I mean, she definitely has a burst damage. She has 3 copies of the swinging Silk kick here, 3-cost event, very similar to the swing web kick. The attack event has the arrow trait. I love that. Hero action attack do 7 damage to enemy. So at worst, you're just paying 3 for 7. A little bit under the curve, but there's a little kicker here. You may discard a card tuck under Silk from Sam and counter set as an enemy that you're doing the damage to. If you do, the attack deals 2 additional damage and gains overkill, so then it could do 9 damage and overkilling minion, and then having efficient damage to bleed over to the villain, right? So definitely a very powerful card. Even 3 for 7, I think it's not bad at all. Having that kicker is really nice. And then you can play 3 per turn. I did that in my Venom Goblin game, right? Playing 3 swinging Silk kicks in 1 turn, doing 21 damage. I probably could have done a kicker and do like additional more damage, but I already had the damage there. So can also swing for 2. And then she also has her Spire Claws to get additional damage. And at worst, if you don't have any tuck cards under Silk from Sam and counter set, you can just exhaust the Spire Claws to give your attack piercing, right? You can add 0 attack and then still get piercing. So she has piercing in her base attack. And once again, with the organic webbing that we saw earlier, she can ready up and attack again, right? So she can swing for 2 with piercing, swing for 2 again with the organic webbing, and then play her swinging Silk kicks. Definitely a lot of burst damage from Silk. She definitely gets a check mark for that. I think her damage is really good. Next, let's take a look at her instances of damage. So small instances of damage is also valuable in Marvel Champions because you want that burst to avoid retaliate and to defeat the villain on the flip. But you also want to have small instances so that you can get rid of stuns, you can defeat minions and just control the board, right? You don't always want to just have, this also knocks off toughs as well, right? So if a hero does have piercing, then I will contribute to this category. So as we just saw earlier, Silk definitely gets a check mark for her small instances. I think that she has damage covered, all around, big bursts, small instances, all that stuff. So having a ready is huge with the organic webbing, so she can just attack, get rid of a stun, ready back up, and then actually do the actual attack to do damage. If the enemy has toughness, she can exhaust her claws if she gets into play, pierces off that tough, and she can also play those swing Silk kicks as well, right? So Silk definitely has plenty of ways to deal with stuns, to deal with minions, stuff like that, right? So definitely good small instances of damage. And the next would be the cost curve of her attacking cards. Can she, pay for her stuff? Are they too expensive for her? And Silk definitely is able to pay for her stuff. She's a web warrior, so she has access to the web of life of destiny. And then she also has, the 3 for 7. That's pretty much on curve because it can also be 3 for 9 if you get the kicker off, right? Having the on demand ready, I mean that's pretty much free. All you gotta do is discard a tuck card underneath Silk, but then you can attack another enemy again, right? And then this card right here, I actually feel like this might be a little bit too expensive for the spider claws. But I mean, it's a permanent piercing no matter what. And if you can get the full kicker, where you have 4 tuck cards from the same enemy, then you're getting +4 attack. So then Silk can swing for 6 on the enemy, right? So that might be a little bit hard to pull out because then you want to, stack all the same and counter set cards underneath Silk, and you probably want a diversity for like stuff like the eidetic memory or for her other abilities, right? To remove threat from side schemes that aren't from the same and counter set as a villain. But yeah, I mean, definitely not a bad card at all. Very high potential on the card, and she can definitely pay for all her stuff, right? So she definitely gets a check mark here for the cost. So she's gonna have a complete score, 3 out of 3 attack, one of the best attackers in Marvel Champions. I really like Silk's attacking ability. Next, let's take a look at the next major category, which is the survivability of Silk, and she also gets a complete score, 3 out of 3 for me, at least in my opinion, right? So first, let's take a look at her alter ego or hero survivability, and I think that is really important. Similar to the initial thwart stat that we want that base thwart of 2, we want to have survivability printed on the hero card, because if you don't draw into any allies on your turn 1, if you don't draw into any of your defense events, can you still survive if the villain activates multiple times on that first turn? And Silk, I mean, not anything crazy. She doesn't really have anything in her alter ego side or her hero side, but she does have the above average defense of 3. So I'm just gonna go ahead and give her the check mark here, right? And she also has 10 hit points. If she had 9 hit points, I wouldn't give her a check mark because then she has a little bit less hit points under the curve. But having 10 hit points, I think, is the average that we're looking for, and 3 defense is above average because anything above 2 is good. So I'm definitely gonna give her a check mark here for her having a little bit of survivability on her printed hero card, because she can just defend on a turn 1 for 3 and block out a lot of damage. Next will be the cards in Silk's kit. Does she have cards that add to her survivability? And she has an amazing card here. Let's see if we can find it. The Spider Reflexes is just totally bonkers. It's a 2-cost upgrade. As a hero interrupt whenever Silk defends when it exhausts its card. For the attack, she gets +1 defense for each card tucked under her from the same encounter set as the attacking enemy. And after this attack, we can tuck the top card of the encounter and discard out under Silk. So this is a really good way to actually get a tuck card under Silk, and it can be wherever the boost card is, basically, because usually you'll get the boost card when an enemy attacks you, and then after you attack, the boost gets discarded, and then you'll get that top card from discard pile and you tuck it underneath Silk, thanks to Spot Reflexes. So I love this card to get a free way to counter tuck cards, but also you get +1 defense for each card tucked from the same encounter set. Usually that's going to be at least 1, so you can at least defend for 4, and it works really well with her kit because she can ready back up during the player phase with the organic webbing here, right? So it's just really good synergy there. And yeah, I mean, I think that this is a really good card for Silker, her Spider Reflexes. And if you get more tuck cards, I mean, I was defending for like 6, 7 every single turn with her because I just kept on having the same encounter cards as the villain. And then whenever you do that, I mean, you're getting tons of damage off. So yeah, definitely a very, very good card. So I think Silk definitely gets a check mark here for her cards that add to her survivability. And then finally, it's going to be her healing here. And healing usually is going to be something like Aunt May, right? Something to help you heal. It's important for heroes to have good healing in their kit, not just their base recovery stat, because if you're exhausted, and you need to use your basic activation like you're throwing or attacking to survive and control the board, can you still flip down and recover and bounce back and get back into games, right? So definitely, if you drop down to like 1 health, can you bounce back? And Silk definitely can, right? If you guys saw my Venom Goblin game with Silk, there's a turn I had 3 allies in play and they all had 1 hit point left, and Silk had like 5 hit points, right? And the Venom Goblin attacked us for like 8, and his attack had indirect damage. So unfortunately, all the allies, they were blocking, but it didn't matter because you had to assign indirect damage that certain way. So I had a way to prevent 1 of the damage to Silk. So basically, we lost all 3 allies in that hit. It was crazy, and then Silk dropped all the way down 1 life, but I was able to bounce back from that game because of Silk's healing ability. And where is her healing stuff? I mean, the main thing is actually not going to be Albert Moon. It's actually going to be, let me go over the organic webbing first. So if a hero has an on-demand rate in your kit, I contribute that to having healing. So she already has that with the organic webbing, right? 2-cost upgrade, so Silk can thwart or attack. And then in hero form, before she flips down, use the organic webbing, get it ready, and then flip down and exhaust to recover by her recovery stat of 3, right? So she already has that with the organic webbing there. And then for Albert Moon here, he's a 2-cost support. So this is another way for Silk to get extra healing. As an alternate action, you exhaust him, and you can choose. We can always pick the one to heal 1 damage from Cindy Moon for each card tucked under her. So hopefully you can have 4 cards tucked under her. So if we exhaust Albert Moon, we're healing by 4. At worst, we're healing by 1, which isn't very good. If you can heal for at least 3, I think that's decent for this card. But yeah, this is another way for Silk to heal without using her basic exhaust, without using her, her recovery stat of 3 right here, because we wouldn't save the exhaust usually for, thorning, attacking, or defending, right? So yeah, Silk definitely has great ways to heal in her kit. So she gets a full score, 3 out of 3 for me. Definitely very, very good survivability and very, very good attacking ability. All right, next let's take a look at her economy. And I think that this is pretty much where Silk struggles the most. This is the next major category, and the 3 subcategories for this is going to be the alter ego and hero card, the cards, and the cost curve of her overall kit, right? So her printed alter ego or hero, the identity card, I think is very important for that to have economy there. Because if you don't draw into resource cards like a double resource, and you don't draw into your resource generators, can your heroes still generate enough stuff to play cards on that first turn when the game begins, or do you need to build out in order to get the economy going? Because any hero can have decent economy whenever they get everything built out, but can you get there decently, right? And Silk, this is a little bit controversial. You can definitely argue for an asterisk here to give her a check mark, but it's not just what the cards say on paper. For me, whenever I'm doing an evaluation, it's about the practicality of it, and does she feel like she has this this identity card having good economy? And for me, she doesn't. You guys know I love Silk. I'm trying not to be biased here, trying to be objective, so I'm not gonna give it a point here. And why I don't think she has it is, let's take a look at her cards here. So let's look at the hero card first. Definitely no economy adding stuff on her printed identity card for the hero form. In Alter Ego, she has a really, really strong ability here, right? Action limit once per round. Discard a card tucked here to draw 2 cards. Okay, you guys are probably asking, what the heck? That is exactly the definition of having economy on your identity card, right? So why did I not give her a check mark for this? Well, you don't start the game off with a card tucked under her, right? So on turn 1, you're just drawing up to her hands as hero 6, and you're not being able to use this action here at all, which really stinks. There is a very, a difficult way to get this off, right? If you can get the scoop into play and then also clear this off while you're in Alter Ego, then you get a tuck card underneath Silk, then you can use the action here. But it's going to require more resources than the cards that you're drawing in order to get that combo off and to remove the 4th threat off here. Also, if you can, if you play Albert Moon on turn 1 and you tuck the top card and the encounter card underneath Silk, then you can also get that off on turn 1. But it requires having this card in your hand, and you're paying 2 costs for this card anyways. So all the resources that you would have the boost for, you're using for this card anyways, to get it off on turn 1. So Silk does not start off the gate with good economy. She struggles off the gate whenever you're first starting out the game. And this does not help you until you're able to actually defeat a minion, defeat a side scheme, tuck it underneath Silk, or actually flip up to hero form, not have any economy, resolve with treachery, then get the tech card, and then flip back down to Alter Ego. And when you do that, some scenarios, especially the more difficult ones, it may the villain may scheme a lot, and you could just spiral into too much threat to bounce back from, right? So it's very difficult for Silk to trigger this early game. Definitely later game, whenever she's built out, her economy is amazing. She has really good economy whenever she can get set up, but I think that she has a little bit of difficulty starting off with that economy, and this offshoot ability does not actually help with that, unfortunately. So I'm not going to give her a check mark here for this. Next would be the cards in her kit. Does she have resource cards or does she have resource generators? And I mean, we really need to talk about it. Still does not have any resource generators in her kit, which is a little bit unfortunate. She also does not have any double resource as well. So she doesn't have cards in her kit that boost up her economy. So she will not get a check mark for that. And then finally, it's going to be the cost curve of her cards. Silk has, very decently cheap cards, right? The wall card, like we talked about, is just 1 for 2, which is okay-ish, not the best, but 1 for 5 is freaking amazing. 3 for 7 is, already okay. It's just right under the curve. 3 for 9 with overkill, really good. J. Jonah Jameson is a little bit more expensive than what he does, in my opinion, at least. And then some of these cards are really good. Some I think are a little bit more expensive, right? I think the Eidetic Memory is really, really good. It's really, very cheap. Spire Claws, I think, is a little bit more expensive. Spire Reflex, I think, is cost curved perfectly. And then I think that the Organic Webbing is very, very cheap for this ability. Very, very good. The Outwit, I think, is a little bit more expensive. And then soon as Silk, it's free to play. And Albert Moon, I think, is a little bit more expensive because I usually want that healing, and he's not giving me the 4 healing, every single time consistently, at least, right? Because sometimes it's just gonna be 3, sometimes 2, depending on the card stuck underneath Silk. But overall, Silk can definitely pay for her cards. They're not very expensive. She doesn't have that many 3-cost cards in her kit. just basically J. Jonah Jameson and the 3 swinging Silk kicks right there. Silk needs to get these upgrades in play to really like get a big boost, right? So since she needs a Spider Reflex, it's 2 cost upgrade, 2 cost upgrade here for the Spider Claws, 1 cost upgrade for the Eidetic Memory, 2 cost upgrade for Organic Webbing, and 2 for the Outwit. I mean, that can be a little bit tough to get all those upgrades in play, which is kind of why her economy, in my opinion, is not the best, because she really needs to play all these things to get, everything set up to be able to counteract everything, right? So most games when I'm playing Silk, I'm not playing all these upgrades. I'm choosing and selecting based on my deck, which upgrade I'm getting out. And overall, she has a score of 1 out of 3 for her economy. Not the best economy in my opinion, but not the worst in the game. She definitely get going once she gets those top cards to flip down to Alter Ego and use that Alter Ego ability to draw 2 cards. Next would be her Versatility, and Silk gets a complete score 3 out of 3. I love the versatility of this hero. That's part of what I love Silk so much, because I like versatile heroes because they're just very fun to play, and she definitely has versatility in every single different way. So 3 subcategories for versatility, in my opinion, are going to be the in-game versatility, the cancels, and the aspects, right? So let's actually go in reverse. We're going to do the aspects first, because I think that also goes towards in-game stuff. So for the aspects, does Silk have versatility across all of the different aspects? And she definitely does. Her versatility across different aspects is crazy, right? Because she can play really well leaning into perfect defense and protection, because with Spider Reflexes, if you can build up the cards to defend, for +3, +4 defense, Silk has a defense base stat of 3. She can defend for 6 or 7 every single turn with the Spider Reflexes, and then ready back up with the Organic Webbing. So really powerful leaning into protection. She can lean into Justice as well, right, with her amazing thwarting ability, with the Outwit right here and the Organic Webbing. She can recur with J. Jonah Jameson, get the scoop, put chance encounters, very good synergy with Justice there, right? You can play one way or another to summon side schemes for Silk to defeat, and then she gets the tuck card underneath her after defeating that side scheme. Same for aggression, you can summon minions with all the aggression summoning cards like Angela. You can get like Face of Pass as well, and then whenever Silk defeats the minion, she can tuck it underneath her, right, and she gets the boost for defeating minions. So minion summon stuff works really well for Silk. You can also do like looking for trouble for aggression as well, right? And then for leadership, you can also summon minions in that aspect as well with Squared Off. And leadership is really good for Web Wars in general, just because those Web War allies are very powerful, especially Madam Web that came in Silk, right? Madam Web is your scrying, Web War ally. Very powerful to look at the top card of the encounter deck. Yeah, so Silk definitely has tons of synergies in every single aspect. I think that she's very good all around. So she definitely gets a check mark here for the aspects there. And I think that's also very fun to deck build for her because of the synergies in every single aspect. Next, let's take a look at the encounter card cancels for Silk, and she definitely has it, right? Like we talked about earlier, it's going to be the Eidetic Memory. A 1-cost upgrade. Interrupt when you reveal a card from the same encounter set as a tucked card under your identity, exhaust this card, and you can swap those cards, right? So basically, if you have a lot of encounter sets stuck underneath Silk, I usually try to keep minions or weaker encounter cards like a side scheme, something that doesn't do anything right away, right? Like no immediate change, like the villain doesn't activate, right? That's the worst one. You don't want to swap into a villain activation, because then they'll activate against you. You want to take out in advance and put out like a caught off guard, so that the villain does not scheme and use this card like a cheap support or upgrade that you have instead, right? So definitely having an on-demand encounter card cancel, a little bit difficult setup, but it's on demand, right? So it's definitely worth it, and it's only 1 cost to play. Very, very powerful card, the Eidetic Memory. She can definitely cancel encounter cards and flip down safely, and just know that, hey, if I get an advance right here, I know I won't lose because I have the Eidetic Memory and I have a card guard tucked underneath me, so I don't need to thwart from the main scheme necessarily right away. I can save that for next turn, right? So that's a very, very powerful versatility ability to have here. And lastly is going to be her in-game versatility. Just like we were talking about the aspects, right? She can play in so many different type of ways, right? She can lean into whichever upgrade that you want to, right? You can lean into the Spire Claws, do more damage, lean into the Spire Reflexes, defending more, but you can also choose to not play them, right? So just don't play the Spire Reflexes and you're never defending, and you're having allies block for you, right? You can choose if you want to do the defending route for Silk, if you want to have allies block, if you want to rush, do a lot of damage, right? And you can lean into the aspects, leaning into minions in aggression, defeat the minions to get tuck cards underneath Silk, lean into side schemes with Justice, defeat side schemes, and tuck them underneath Silk, right? So many powerful synergies with Silk. She can do whatever she wants in different aspects, and in-game, she can play whatever way. She can do a lot of thwarting, she can do a lot of readying, she can do a lot of damage, whatever that you want to do, right? So Silk definitely has that in-game versatility here. So she gets a full score, 3 out of 3 for me. Very, very good versatile hero. So overall, my ranking for Silk is, I think that she's a solid A-tier hero. For heroes that are missing 4 missed check marks in their, the boxes there, I usually give them an A-tier evaluation. I think that is where Silk lies. I think that she's definitely very, very good and one of the strongest built out heroes if she could get there. I think that early game is kind of where she struggles the most because she needs to get tuck cards under her identity, and that can be a little bit difficult to get sometimes, depending on a scenario. If it's a very high pressure scenario, like Venom Goblin or Ruin or something like that, right? But she can definitely get going, and when she does, she's very, very powerful. So I think an A tier evaluation is fair for her. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you agree with this evaluation of A tier. If you don't, let me know what you think. Do you think that Silk is B tier? Do you think that she's S tier? And I'll see you guys all in the next one.